You'd think the post-apartheid change from police force to police service would have fostered a change in attitude. But while there are many in the SAPS dedicated to their communities, others seem determined to ignore their responsibility to serve and protect. But just as concerning, their bosses often appear unwilling to act against the rogues. And in the latest in a series of Carte Blanche exposés, Derek gets an insider's view.
For months, Carte Blanche and journalism unit Viewfinder have covered the human cost of police brutality in South Africa. In August, we brought you the story of 15-year-old Damian Arendse from Westbank outside Cape Town, shot in the back, allegedly by police, in a case of mistaken identity.
He was falling right there, and the blood was all lying there. He couldn't breathe. But what he actually was saying, the police shot him.
In October, we reported from the notorious 𝗀𝗵𝗀 hostel complex in 𝗬𝗊𝗍 outside Durban, where police were accused of involvement in a spree of political killings. And in January, we exposed the alleged torture of 36-year-old Adam Isaacs by police and soldiers in Athlone outside Cape Town, after his arrest on drug-related charges. Isaacs was one of hundreds of people arrested during joint operations between the army and police on the gang-ridden Cape Flats between 2019 and early 2020. Isaacs died of his injuries in hospital days after his arrest. A common thread ran through these stories: the failure of police management to discipline officers implicated in such crimes. We revealed that the Athlone station commander's failure to discipline a notorious cop against whom allegations were made, Sergeant 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗶𝘆, may have enabled the torture of Adam Isaacs. But the crisis in leadership and accountability in the police service goes all the way to the top. Last month, the president announced the early termination of Police Commissioner 𝗀𝗁cie𝗿𝗆𝗆𝗆's contract. Throughout this investigation, police management and those implicated in the brutality and cover-ups met our queries with silence. Now, finally, the police's code of silence is cracked. A former colleague of Sergeant Gabriel's, accused of torturing Adam Isaacs on that fateful day in Athlone, has come forward.
Why did you join the police service?
I wanted to help people, and the police seemed the way to go, because it's an organization that is there to protect and serve. It's not at all what I thought it would be.
What was your reaction to the Carte Blanche expose?
I was relieved. I was glad that he was exposed, because it was about time that someone did something and not keep quiet.
What was the response of the leadership, the station commander, after Adam's death?
Nothing. They turn a blind eye. It's too much paperwork and the violence just goes on. And it's a spiral that goes and goes until eventually there's a bomb.
Police disciplinary data reveals ample examples of officers repeatedly implicated in brutality being left unpunished by their commanders. But this is not a case of just a few bad apples. Last year, it emerged in Parliament that commanders routinely refused to discipline officers, even with the police watchdog 𝗍𝗶𝗏 concluded that misconduct allegations against them were probably true. Brigadier 𝗬𝗏 was a career cop and a former head of the police's anti-corruption unit. He says this sort of thing has been going on for decades.
Now, Brigadier, was it difficult to be a good cop, to use the term in your day?
Yes, I think it was. If you have to report everything you see that's not right, you get such a bad reputation that in many instances it's just better to just look the other way. It's a subculture thing. They refer to it as the blue wall of silence sometimes.
What's the culture within your police station when officers are implicated in violent crimes?
It's not spoken about. It would be like a hush-hush swept under the mat.
What can you tell us about the group of officers implicated in torturing Adam?
They had a history of torture, of violence. It was like a game to them. The one police officer, he bragged about how Adam was tortured If they get away with it today, tomorrow they try something new, they get away with it. It takes someone that is evil to do what was done that night.
In recent months, the police service has been under pressure to account for poor discipline within the ranks. It's not easy to get direct answers, but we've stayed on the trail. Major General 𝗵𝗶𝘀𝗶𝘆 is the police's head of communications. General, what is SAPS' response to Carte Blanche's investigation of Sergeant 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗶𝘶? A basic question, is he still on duty?
I can confirm that the member is on duty just for purposes of progress.
While the police continue to drag their feet on the discipline or suspension of Sergeant Gabriels, the community at his current posting, the small west coast town of Lambert's Bay, says his pattern of abuse has continued. Wherever Gabriels goes, it seems police officers are also speaking out. Carte Blanche has now received an affidavit written by one of Gabriel's West Coast colleagues, which expressed outrage at the failure of management to discipline or disarm him. The affidavit also highlighted that cops who blow the whistle on abuse can expect to be victimized.
Why did you decide to speak out? There are distinct dangers.
Yeah, there is. You get targeted. I just go with the models and the values of the police. But from what I've witnessed and what I've seen, there's no need to use torture. You look at all these other ways and means of doing things. You get taught other ways.
So how do you think Adam died?
I know that he was assaulted, he was kicked, he was hit, a bag was put over his head, sprayed with pepper spray in it.
Suffocation torture, known as tubing, is associated with the apartheid police. But watchdog records show that it persists to this day. In fact, complainants say that it's been refined, that pepper spray is sprayed into a plastic bag and pulled tightly over the victims' heads.
Last year in 𝗀𝗏𝗄𝗃, we spoke to Richard 𝗬𝗵𝗶, who is one survivor of this terrifying method.
They took me where they put a tube on me and then forced me to put my head, with the tube, inside the water. I'm still asking myself, how do I manage to survive?
So what will you do to address the question of torture, especially tubing, during interrogations?
If we are dealing with specific cases, then it becomes easy to trace and investigate. But if it's just a general statement that is being made, then we're not really sure where to look at.
But the police's use of tubing torture is not a general statement. We provided Peter's office with a list of more than 1,300 case numbers related to tubing allegations registered across South Africa in recent years. Cases for which discipline has been virtually non-existent. This list seems to have prompted the veil of silence to descend again. Her office did not respond. Police top management has been in crisis for years. It's routinely unable to respond to some of the most pressing safety concerns of South Africans. Now the search for a new national commissioner is underway.
What message would you have for an incoming national commissioner?
To take a serious look at management at stations, to be more firm.
What should the new national commissioner prioritize to restore our confidence and restore discipline within the police service?
I think you've answered that. Discipline. They should improve discipline.
It's not as if the police don't know they have a discipline problem. Head Office sent out a circular in October last year warning commanders to stop protecting their colleagues. The circular said that commanders who continued in the old ways, taking little or no action to enforce discipline, would themselves be departmentally charged. A basic question: has any commander ever been disciplined for failure to act?
Look, I'll speak from a time when the correspondence you've been referring to was issued in October. Since that time, we have observed that there has been an improvement in that space. And as a result, we have not taken any steps against anyone.
We followed up, but Peter's provided no evidence of this supposed improvement or to back up claims that the police was doing everything in its power to ensure discipline is enforced. Commanders who cover up for their colleagues still have little to fear, it seems.
If you could convey a message to the incoming intakes, new police officers, what would it be?
If you witness anything, speak. Don't follow in the steps of your senior member or your colleague.
Thank you for watching our stories here online, and please subscribe below to become part of our YouTube community and be notified when we upload our latest content.